WABC New York, WRCR Haverstraw, and 107.1 WLIR Hampton Bays.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noah Layden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noah
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Wednesday, June 17th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Rain this morning, clouds this afternoon, high 77. Tonight and overnight, partly cloudy, low 68. And then Thursday, a mostly cloudy day, high 91. If you're walking out the door with us right now, 55 and cloudy in Spring Valley up in Rockland. It's 53 and cloudy in Blairstown over in New Jersey. And it's 61 and cloudy right outside our Midtown studios. Rex Uerman, the Gilgo Beach serial killer, will be sentenced today. That coyote in Westchester still on the prowl. So how did New Jersey Transit do with those World Cup rides? Oh no, the Jellyfish are out down the Jersey shore. And the results coming in from a weird race on Long Island. All right, let's get into it at 5:04. More than 30 years after he began a 2-decade killing spree, Gilgo Beach serial killer Rex Uerman set to be sentenced today for the strangulation deaths of women whose bodies were buried on Long Island. The sentence is not in doubt. The 62-year-old, he pled guilty to the murders of 8 different women. The terms of his plea agreement require him to spend the rest of his life in state prison without the possibility of parole. Uerman also agreed to be interviewed by the FBI Behavioral Unit. Families of the victims, this will be a big day for them. They are expected to give victim impact statements. They'll tell a judge how Uerman's murders impacted their lives. No limitations have been placed on the number of family members who want to address the court today. Uerman himself will also be given a chance to speak to the judge before the pronouncement of a sentence. Not clear if he will or not. Uerman was first identified as the suspect in this long-running case back in 2022 when a state police investigator linked him to a Chevrolet seen the night Amber Costello disappeared. Investigators then used cell phone data, DNA, other evidence, even pizza crust to tie Uerman to the killings of the women who all worked as sex workers. It has not yet been established where Uerman will serve his punishment. That at least hasn't been publicly announced. And then you have the sideline story of some of the victims' families who continue to also blame Rex Uerman's wife, ex-wife, I should say now, Asa Ellerup, saying how could she not know that these women were being murdered in the basement of her Massapequa home? They married in 1995. She filed divorce shortly after Uerman's arrest back in 2023. And she's spoken out just a few times. They did a documentary. She spoke in that. She also spoke out to the families.
My thoughts and prayers are with the victims and their families. Their loss is immeasurable. And the focus should be on them at this time and moment. I ask that you give some privacy to my family as they navigate through this very difficult time.
Yeah, so she made that announcement, but some of the families, they just can't comprehend that she knew nothing of the murders that were taking place in the basement of her Massapequa home. Now, let's point out, she's not the murderer. Prosecutors have said over and over again they don't believe she knew what was going on downstairs. But reporters have peppered her the few times that she has spoken out to the press.
How did you not see what he was? How did you not see what he had done? You were living with him.
Sir, the district attorney's office has thoroughly investigated these crimes, okay? It has been proven.
You were living in the same house with him.
She was away.
What were the signs?
She was away each and every occasion. We've answered this 1,000 times, okay? You guys have the bail application. You have the investigation.
Also?
Yeah, that's it. There's no questions, okay? Thank you.
Yeah, again, most of the other words she has said out loud have been in a documentary on TV. WABC News Time 5:09. Some pretty intense moments at JFK Airport. This was about 5 o'clock yesterday. A flight ended up landing safely there after reports that the plane had flat front tires. It was a Delta flight that was going into JFK from San Juan. 46 units, including 140 41 fire and EMS personnel. They raced to this runway because they were worried with the flat tire, but thank God the flight landed just fine. Even it was okay to taxi over the runway and to the gate where the 170 people on board were able to get off. Now they'll investigate exactly what took place, but it might have just been, tires get flat sometimes. 5:09 out to Delaware, where a 23-year-old in custody in Philadelphia early today after a fatal shooting in a Wilmington, Delaware hospital that had to go into lockdown yesterday afternoon, forced employees to barricade themselves inside the rooms as they heard gunfire. One person was killed, another injured in this shooting. Now, not much is known about the suspect or what his motive was, but you can imagine how frightening it was for the doctors, the nurses, the patients.
Police located 2 gunshot victims. One of those victims has tragically died from his injuries.
The governor of Delaware is Matt Meyer. His wife actually works at this hospital.
We're keeping the doctors, nurses, staff, patients, and family at Christiana Care in our thoughts. This hits especially close to home for our family. Just a few minutes ago, I went with my wife, Lauren, who was reporting to work at Christiana Care.
Yeah, so far, authorities have not released the identities of the victims or this gunman that was taken into custody in Philly. 5:10. Let's head down to Georgia. Yesterday was primary day in a number of states. I guess maybe the more interesting race was down in Georgia, where this was closely watched last night. Rick Jackson won the Republican primary runoff for Georgia governor. The healthcare executive and first-time candidate thanking supporters last night.
We're not building a campaign for the insiders. We are building a movement for the people, and you're who I'm going to represent.
Now, Rick Jackson defeated President Trump's endorsed candidate, Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones.
I will create more jobs than has ever been done in the history of Georgia.
Jackson's going to face Democratic nominee Keisha Lance Bottoms in the November general election. And Rick Jackson talked about the economy. They say that's, at least he said, that's why he thinks he's who won. Mike Collins won the Republican Senate primary runoff in Georgia last night. During his victory speech, he said he was looking ahead to the fall.
Y'all know I am so proud to be standing here as your Republican nominee for the United States Senate.
President Trump gave a last-minute endorsement to Collins over former football coach Derek Dooley in that primary battle. Collins will take on Democratic Senator John Ossoff in November. Let's head overseas. Don't know a whole lot more, even today, about this peace deal between the U.S. and Iran. Democrats, even some Republicans, though, expressing skepticism about the U.S.-Iran framework agreement to be signed on Friday. Most of the concern from Republicans surrounds reports that claim the U.S. will send money to Iran. But Vice President J.D. Vance, who was out on a bunch of TV shows yesterday, he was on The View, he was on Sirius XM, and he says that's just not true.
Not a single cent of American money under any circumstance, no matter what the Iranians do, goes to Iran.
Vance says the agreement does allow Iran to reach peaceful benchmarks, which would then allow other nations in the region to invest in Iranian infrastructure. The vice president adds that the agreement does not state Iran must never, does state rather, that Iran must never develop or buy a nuclear weapon.
So I think all the Democrats who are saying, well, the Iranians get all these things, they don't get anything unless there's been a complete transformation of how Iran interacts with the world. That would be a huge win for America.
Yeah, but it just wasn't the Democrats. You had some Republicans asking what's going on. They want more details. Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley says lawmakers haven't been told of the terms of this deal.
It would be better, from my point of view, if we had had it in our hands yesterday, and I don't see a reason why we haven't had. We have not been briefed on it. We haven't been told that we're going to have a briefing.
The full text of the deal, described as a memorandum of understanding, will not be released, at least what we're being told today, until maybe Friday.
I think it would be better if we had the actual document in our hand, but whatever it says now, it's going to say the same thing Friday. It seems to me it'd be easier for Chuck Grassley to comment on it if I could read it.
In Israel, they're not happy with this deal, or at least what they've heard so far about it.
Israel was, of course, not in these negotiations. They were completely sidelined in these negotiations, and the media here is really jumping on the fact that Prime Minister Netanyahu admitted yesterday that the Israeli government doesn't even know the exact details of this agreement.
That's correspondent Blake Sifton, who's in Tel Aviv. In an address, the Prime Minister, Bibi Netanyahu, did not criticize the deal, but he did distance himself from it. And he says he doesn't plan to withdraw Israeli forces from Lebanon, which apparently is part of this deal.
This agreement between the U.S. and Iran has been widely condemned by politicians across the political spectrum here in Israel. Last night, Prime Minister Netanyahu gave an address in which he didn't directly criticize the agreement, but he did make great efforts to distance himself from it.
Iran this morning is accusing Israel of violating this truce in Lebanon 84 times since the memorandum of understanding was agreed to between Tehran and the U.S. And they warn of a harsh response if these attacks continue. Now, this warning comes after Israeli forces killed 4 people in southern Lebanon today, and as President Trump criticized Prime Minister Netanyahu, saying he has to be more responsible in Lebanon. Now, a third tanker carrying Iranian oil has sailed past the U.S. Navy's blockade line in the Gulf of Oman today, and Iran's foreign minister says any agreement with the U.S. must include the release of frozen Iranian assets. I imagine that's a big part of this deal. Sanctions relief and Israel's withdrawal from Lebanon. But Israel saying today that ain't gonna happen. So we'll have to see what happens come Friday. In a moment, a little bit more on Iran, but this time it's the Iranian soccer team and how they say they've been treated since they've come to take part in the World Cup. We'll get to that in just a moment. But first, 5:15, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Good morning, Justin Ellick.
Good morning to you, Noam Layden. Start out here in the Bronx. Spencer Jones hit his first Yankee Stadium home run in the second inning. Van Rice and Paul Goldschmidt each added a 2-run drive in the fourth, and the Yankees rocked the White Sox 12-2 in the opener of a 3-game series against Chicago. Garrett Cole allowed 2 runs and 3 hits in 6 innings as the Yankees improved 8-4 since losing slugger Aaron Judge indefinitely to a stress fracture in his right rib. Rice reached 20 homers for the second straight season after hitting 26 last year. The first baseman joined Houston's Jordan Alvarez, Minnesota's Byron Buxton, and injured White Sox rookie Munetaka Murakami among American League players with 20 homers. Goldschmidt homered for the second time in 3 games and matched his total from last season when he appeared in 146 games for the Yankees. Cody Bellinger had 3 hits, including a go-ahead 2-run single with the bases loaded in the third. New York finished with 16 hits and scored double-digit runs for the 8th time this season. Up next for the Yankees, now 2.5 games up on Tampa Bay for first place in the AL East. The lefty Carlos Rodon gets a start in tonight's middle game of this 3-game series, scheduled for a 7:05 p.m. first pitch from the stadium. In Cincinnati, the Mets lost 5-3 to the Reds in the middle game of a 3-game series, losing the first 2 and the series to Cincinnati in the process. Mark Vientos had a 2-run homer in the 6th for New York, his first career pinch hit homer. Mets righty Kodai Senga, reinstated from the IL before the game, allowed 4 earned runs in 4 innings with 4 walks and 5 strikeouts in his first start since April 26th. Up next for the Mets, Nolan McLean will start this afternoon's finale against the Reds, with the Mets trying to avoid being swept. First pitch from Cincinnati is scheduled for 12:40 p.m. And some news coming out of the NHL. And after the conclusion of your Stanley Cup, John Tortorella, who we're familiar with here in New York, former head coach of the Rangers, guided the Vegas Golden Knights to the Stanley Cup final. He will not return as head coach next season, the team announced yesterday. He was a bit of a surprise hire when he was brought in with 8 games remaining in the regular season. Golden Knights had fired Bruce Cassidy, who had 1 year remaining in his contract while the team was in a playoff position. Of course, Vegas just losing the Stanley Cup in Game 6 on Sunday to the Carolina Hurricanes. That is your Sports Noam, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 520. I'm doing battle with maybe the largest fly that I've ever seen in my life in the studio. Have you seen this thing? Oh, my God. I opened the door, so maybe it's flown out. I'm looking to see. Oh my, it is like from the movie, The Fly. That's how big this thing is. The Iranian soccer team, the men's soccer team, made a quick departure from Los Angeles following its opening World Cup match on Monday. And the coach of the Iranian team says that they were forced to leave Los Angeles, where their game took place, and to go to Mexico. But now we're finding out that that story may not be true. This was a big story yesterday. The coach of the Iranian team saying after that 2-2 draw with New Zealand, they had to board a plane for Tijuana. But a Department of Homeland Security spokesman saying late last night that the Iranians had agreed to those terms before they even came here for the World Cup. And then you had that World Cup match, by the way, which was a surprise that they drew a tie with New Zealand 2-2. And the fans that showed up at this World Cup match were people who were fans of the current regime and those who were fans of the Shah all those years ago. The people who have lived in Los Angeles for years. There's a big Iranian community there. And initially it seemed like this was going to be okay.
We are not politics. No. It's a beautiful game. It's a beautiful sport. We are here to represent our beautiful country, Iran.
All right. So he sounds like he's just there for sportsmanship.
We're not supporting our country because of the regime, the situation, because the team of Iran supporting regime. So we're just going to go there to protest about regime.
All right, so some people bought tickets to protest the regime.
I'm not like a big fan of like the players supporting like IRGC and all of that, obviously. But, you know, I'm excited to see what happens.
Okay, so we were as well. And guess what? There were fights in the stands between people who were Iranian, those who were supporters of the current regime, and those who were forced out or left when the Shah came to power in the late 70s.
It's a hard time right now in Iran, but
I should say the Shah was forced out of power in the late 70s.
Watching soccer and watching your soccer team play in a World Cup is, you know, it's like a little break, and get to rejoice in that and come together.
Yeah, but there was a fair amount of fights between Iranians, right? Current ones who live in Los Angeles, and some of those who I guess were able to get here for the match or who support the regime and live here in the U.S. 523. Federal law enforcement officials detailing what took place or what could have taken place in these plans to attack that UFC event at the White House on Sunday night. The plan was to send in attack drones, and then when people raced away from the scene, when those attack drones opened fire, that they would have people with guns opening fire on the people racing away. One of those arrested is from Ohio, where Governor Mike DeWine says the news should serve as a reminder to people to stay vigilant.
Look, we live in difficult times, and there are people out there who are inclined and capable of doing very bad things.
Now, according to a criminal complaint, 19-year-old Tyson Proper was arrested and faces 4 criminal counts, including attempted murder of an officer. The plot believed to involve using drones and a gunman to cause harm at the event. The FBI Secret Service reportedly uncovered the plans and messages between a number of people in the days before this UFC event on Sunday night.
We have to remain vigilant, and thank God the law enforcement did what they did. People watched that show the other night. We watched what was going on. I watched it, some of it, and you know, the thought that something would have happened there is just absolutely horrible.
Yeah, nice job done by everybody who were able to uncover that plot before they could have carried it out. 524 out to California, where Republican gubernatorial candidate Steve Hilton, he knows he's behind in this race for governor, at least in the polls, and the numbers are not great, so he's coming out with plans that could help people's wallet, their pocketbook. You know, California thinks they're so damn expensive there. So one of his ideas would be no income tax on people who make less than $150,000 a year. He floated the plan yesterday.
But there's a lot of people making over $100,000 really struggling, because we've got the highest gas prices, the highest housing costs, electric bills have doubled. Everything's so expensive.
Now, he says they would have to make drastic cuts to the California budget to help in this plan, but he says you got to give Californians who make less than $150,000 a year some relief.
That's the new tax plan I'm announcing today. Your first $150,000 tax-free.
Yeah, sounds pretty good.
The simplest and most direct way we can put more money in people's pockets is to take less money out in the first place.
No, that's one thing he's pitching to voters. 525 down to Texas, where Senator John Cornyn, flexing his newfound political freedom, He's now criticizing President Trump in an exclusive interview he did with The Times. That is not sitting well with some of his fellow conservatives back in Texas.
Going with a bad attitude, it's not in his best interest.
That's GOP strategist Bill Miller, who says the outgoing senator's not helping with party unity, going after the party and Texans in this interview with the New York Times.
Turning on Trump is really turning on the party, and that is not in his best interest.
Now, one of the things that Gordon told the paper was that extreme partisan politics led to low voter turnout in the primary, and he predicted he thinks a pretty bumpy ride in Texas come November. 526 out to Chicago, where the Obama Presidential Library and Museum is set to open on Friday. The Obama Foundation unveiling the first official portrait of former President Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama at the Obama Presidential Center. That's where this will hang. The Obamas were pleased with the results.
Before we get any commentary in, we just got to soak it in.
It's us. And
it is
all
so pretty.
Of the stories within the story.
Your house was behind there.
Mm-hmm. Euclid. Oh my God, you got everything in there.
Yeah, so the grand opening celebrations, they're going to begin today. They'll last through Sunday. Stevie Wonder, Bruce Springsteen, among the entertainers scheduled to perform this week at that grand opening of the Obama Presidential Center.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Wednesday, June 17th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Going to see some rain this morning. Clouds this afternoon, high 77. Tonight and overnight, partly cloudy, low 68. And then Thursday for the parade, expect a mostly cloudy day, warm, high 91. If you're walking out the door with us right now, so happy you are. 55 and cloudy in Spring Valley up in Rockland. It's 53 and cloudy in Blairstown over in New Jersey. And it's 61 and cloudy right outside our Midtown studios. WABC News Time 5:39. The first weekday World Cup game was yesterday, coupled with the evening commute, and apparently went off without any major hitch. Despite the gridlock alert, there was an Amtrak switch issue at one point, but this was the France-Senegal match at MetLife Stadium at 3 o'clock yesterday. They warned us about not driving through Midtown. 42nd Street was shut down to traffic. And then you had the issue of New Jersey Transit. Would they be able to get riders, soccer fans, out to the stadium? That was that $98 ticket round trip. Well, when you talk to fans who made it out to the stadium and then made it back home, they were giving New Jersey Transit, this is rare, high praise.
I thought it would be complicated to get, kind of 100,000 people all the way to the stadium, but I was impressed, so well done.
Well, we enjoyed the ride and everything was perfect for us.
It was very organized, at least surprisingly, because I was expecting it to be really, really, really jam-packed.
New Jersey Transit was worried. They had 500 contracted buses positioned near Penn Station. They were able to deploy if there had been transit issues. The only notable issue yesterday was an Amtrak switch issue near Secaucus that disrupted rail service for about 30-minute delays in and out of Penn Station during the evening. But for fans who were attending the match, they didn't have a problem. And the ones who tried to drive there, you could park at an American Dream Mall that's right across the street from the stadium. $225 to do so. They got caught in traffic, but for people who use New Jersey Transit, these were the fans going to the France-Senegal game. They say it was great.
Driving would not be the move at all. I looked into a helicopter. So you did your research. All different costs. A helicopter was a few thousand, a train or a car, personal car was $1,000, I think.
I would definitely do it again. So well organized. Expensive, but worth it.
That must anger New Jersey Transit regular commuters when they hear how great it was, because their commute is not always so great. New Jersey Transit now has to pull this off 6 more times. The next one will be trickier. That is Monday's match, next Monday at 8 p.m. The first game train will be at 4 p.m., which means fans and New Jersey commuters will all be heading west during the evening rush at the same time, but not together. So we'll, of course, watch that on Monday. 5:42, Knicks will be honored with that ticker tape parade through the famed Canyon of Heroes Thursday morning. Mayor Mamdani announced that the Knicks parade will begin at 10 a.m. It'll follow the traditional route. Broadway, up Broadway from Battery Park to City Hall, where the team will be given keys to the city during a special ceremony. Yesterday, the city was handing out paper, because there's no such thing as ticker tape anymore. So the city was handing out paper to buildings along the route. Any building that asked for paper got big bags of paper so people can lean out their windows tomorrow and throw it out.
Obviously, there are no more ticker tape machines anymore. So we purchased the recycled paper that's turned into confetti. They come in sort of these large boxes. So that's where we come in, we take it, we put it into the bags, and then based on how much each building wants, that's when we deliver it to them.
So it's the first time a Knicks championship has been celebrated with a parade. The prior championship in 1973 did not come with a parade. There was some sort of ceremony at City Hall. The city was broke at the time. That might have been part of the reason. And then you had people in City Hall saying, hey, we know this may be the biggest ticker tape parade New York City's ever seen, and they're asking people just to behave.
We've had some big ones, but I have a feeling this might be the biggest one yet. So who knows? We'll see. We just hope that everybody who comes will be kind, respectful. It's a day to celebrate. It's a day to be unified.
Of course, every politician wants to be connected to this thing, including Mayor Mamdani, obviously, who will be there. Governor Hochul says she will be, too.
Oh, this is going to be one for the ages. This is something people are going to tell their great-grandkids that they were at. But we'll be watching like hawks for any incidences and tampering them down as quickly as possible so everybody comes away having an incredibly positive, wonderful experience.
All right, so far, initially Mother Nature looked like it was going to rain on the parade, but now it looks like it'll just be cloud cover and on the warm side for tomorrow's parade. 5:44, a juvenile is under arrest in Jersey City for that acid attack that we told you took place on Monday night. 5 women, some of them teenagers, were sitting outside a building on Monday night when this juvenile drove up, was in the backseat of a car, and then splashed all 5 of them with acid. Now, some of these girls had to be treated for second-degree burns to their face and scalp. Here's one of the victims who spoke to Eyewitness News.
All I heard from them was calling each other names and fighting. I was going crazy because I couldn't see nothing. And this is happening on my block, and my grandkids were sitting out here.
Yeah, she says she will be bedridden for a couple more days. The attack appears to have been targeted. May have stemmed from a dispute between a large group of people earlier in the day. Neighbors say they saw girls yelling at another group of people, so they say maybe that's tied to this attack. Police not telling us a whole lot.
The people that were hurt, they had the towels on their face, and they went into the ambulance. We thought it might have just been a fight. It was a lot of commotion on the block the day before with a lot of girls out here, and then yesterday, so we didn't think it would be this bad or escalate like this.
Yeah, so there was some concern because they were washing down the streets yesterday in this neighborhood. Now, neighbors also want to see who the acid thrower is to see if they know them.
Am I being exposed to anything dangerous out here? I have my daughter out here. She's 2 years old.
The girls that I've seen living there, they're so sweet. They're good girls, so I hope everything's okay with them.
Yeah, so we'll see if Jersey City Police release a motive later today. In a moment, we'll head out to Bayville, Long Island, where they had sort of a strange election yesterday. We'll get to that in just a moment, but first, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk, and here's Justin Alec.
Thank you, Noam Layden. Sports sponsored by Pete Morgan and Peerless Boilers. Go to peerlessboilers.com to find a deal near you. Peerless Boilers are the world's best-built boilers. We'll start out here in the Bronx. Spencer Jones hit his first Yankee Stadium homer in the second inning. Van Rice and Paul Goldschmidt each added a 2-run drive in the fourth, and the Yankees rocked the White Sox 12-2 in the opener of a 3-game series against Chicago. Garrett Cole allowed 2 runs and 3 hits in 6 innings as the Yankees improved to 8-4 since losing slugger Aaron Judge indefinitely to a stress fracture in his right rib. Rice reached 20 homers for the second straight season after hitting 26 in 2025. First baseman joined Houston's Jordan Alvarez, Minnesota's Byron Buxton, and injured White Sox rookie Munetaka Murakami among American League players with 20 homers. Goldschmidt homered for the second time in 3 games and matched his total from last season when he appeared in 146 games for the Yankees. Cody Bellinger had 3 hits, including a go-ahead 2-run single with the bases loaded in the third. New York finished with 16 hits and scored double-digit runs for the 8th time this season. Up next for the Yankees, now 2.5 games up on Tampa Bay for first place in the AL East. Lefty Carlos Rodon gets a start in tonight's middle game of this 3-game series, scheduled for a 7:05 p.m. first pitch from Yankee Stadium in Cincinnati. The Mets lost 5-3 to the Reds in the middle game of a 3-game set there, losing the first 2 and the series to Cincinnati in the process. Mark Vientos had a 2-run homer in the 6th for New York, his first career pinch hit homer. Mets righty Kodai Senga, reinstated from the IL before the game, allowed 4 runs in 4 innings with 4 walks and 5 strikeouts in his first start since April 26th. Up next for the Mets, Nolan McLean will start this afternoon's finale against the Reds, with the Mets trying to avoid being swept. First pitch from Cincinnati is scheduled for 12:40 p.m. And we're looking ahead to Friday afternoon as well. World Cup action, 3 p.m. United States and Australia will get going. Our U.S. men 1-0 in group play, as is the case for Team Australia. And news coming out of the NHL quickly here after the conclusion of the Stanley Cup Finals. John Tortorella, who guided the Vegas Golden Knights to the final, will not return as head coach next season. The team announced yesterday. Of course, Vegas losing to Carolina in Game 6 in the Stanley Cup. That is your sports. Noam, sponsored by Pete Morgan and Peerless Boilers. Go to peerlessboilers.com. Find a deal under you. Peerless Boilers, the world's best built boilers. I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:50. Yesterday was Election Day in Bayville out on Long Island, where voters headed to the polls despite an unusual circumstance. Officially, there were no candidates on the ballot for mayor. The current mayor dropped out of the race too close to Election Day.
I'm running because there was a void. Our current mayor decided not to run at the last second. The timing of his announcement prevented people from getting petition signatures in on time.
Yes, you had to write in a candidate if you wanted your guy or gal to win. So the lack of formal candidates led to several residents mount write-in campaigns, creating an unexpected crowded field. Now, this is a small town, about I should even call it a village, 7,000 residents. A fair amount of them were kind of excited by this idea, and they turned out to vote yesterday.
By my count, we have 11 people who have come forward to say they're interested in being the mayor. That's not a sign of a village where people are upset and dissatisfied. That's a healthy sign, I think.
I think he's right about that. So we couldn't get confirmation on who won this thing, but Paul Rupp was ahead, at least when they were counting last night, receiving 519 write-in ballots in that strange election out in Bayville. Nassau County Police not too far away investigating after a body discovered in North Woodmere Park yesterday. Officers called to the park, this was about noon, for what appeared to be a body floating in the water, and sure enough it was.
It's very scary when any of these things happen, but for it to happen in a park area and around people like this, it's very unfortunate.
Yeah, so the identity of that individual has not been determined. Investigation, they say, is ongoing. 5:52. Out to and up to Irvington in Westchester. Remember yesterday we told you about this coyote that's been on the prowl there. It attacked this little dog, Becky, had it in its mouth. For sure the owner thought that the dog was going to die.
I heard an immediate loud screeching noise, and you could tell something was drastically wrong.
Yeah, so the coyote actually released the dog. Apparently was startled by police sirens because the dog's owner called the cops. And the dog, is not in great shape, but is going to be okay. And now we're getting more stories. They think maybe it's the exact same coyote because everybody's gotten a picture of it. Approached a 2-year-old boy on the street. Now, Gia Altman is this boy's mother, and she ran towards the boy when she thought this dog, she thought it was a dog because it kind of looks like a dog, started walking towards her 2-year-old child.
I picked him up, and I was holding him, and it kept trying to get closer. So I had him in one arm, his bike in the other arm, was like swinging the bike, trying to get this thing to back off. Unfazed, was just standing there staring at us, obviously wanted to keep trying to get closer.
Yeah, eventually that coyote did walk away. Police unable so far to locate the animal. And you have people in the neighborhood who say they're not sleeping so well knowing that this coyote, which may be rabid and the fact that it's going up to people, is still out there this morning.
I don't feel safe having her in my backyard. My son has relocated all of his baseball equipment inside and refuses to come out, and has been sleeping in our bed because they're hearing the coyotes on the loose.
Now, people who know animals, they say this behavior is kind of typical of coyotes during what's called pupping season, when adult coyotes hunt more frequently to feed their offspring and may act more aggressively to protect them or when they're seeking out food. Governor Hochul yesterday says checks are going out in the mail to nearly 3 million New Yorkers for the state's $2 billion property tax relief program. Most homeowners with incomes below $500,000 will get anywhere between $350 to $600, while most seniors with income below $110,000 will get $700 to $1,500.
It is fantastic for those who are homeowners. It's hard, out of reach for many, but I need to make sure that we're doing everything we can at the state level to put money back in your pockets and help you out with these costs.
Yeah, Governor Hochul says some New Yorkers will get the money right away from this program. They call it the STAR program. Others won't see it until later in the summer or the fall. A necropsy reveals what caused the death of that Central Park carriage horse last week, that collapse. It was published by the union that represents the carriage drivers, and it shows that the horse ate a foreign toxic plant in Central Park, and that's what it died from. Governor Hochul was asked if she thought the carriage horses should be banned. That was part of the same press conference where she was talking about those checks in the mail.
Yeah, this is part of the New York experience for many. We're always happy to look at the options, but it's a city decision, and this is something that they want to continue. And so I've got a lot of issues only Albany has to worry about in the state. I'd like to leave some of the ones for the city to worry about and let that stay in their hands.
Yeah, she's passing it off back to the mayor, who, by the way, says he'd be in favor of a ban on these horse and carriages. Now, when this horse collapsed, you had the animal activists come out and say it was because it was being overworked. But the strange part is that it ate this poisonous shrub in Central Park, which begs the question, why are they growing poisonous shrubs in Central Park? Because if a horse could die eating it, you think maybe a dog could as well.
Make sure that there aren't any other animals. I mean, a dog could be exposed to that as well.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that all of the plants that we have animals accessible to are safe.
Yeah, so they're going to go check that out. And we'll end with this story. Clinging jellyfish were first spotted in New Jersey bays about 10 years ago. And now a little girl has been stung by one, and she ended up in the hospital. And you probably wouldn't even see them before it's too late, because they're tiny little things. They're like the size of a quarter, but they pack enough venom to send grown adults to the ER in crippling pain. Now, Dr. Paul Bologna, he's the director of marine biology at Montclair State University. He's a leading expert on jellyfish in New Jersey, and he heard about this.
A young girl was stung and basically spent 3 days in agonizing pain.
Now, see, here's the issue. They don't usually hang out in the ocean. It's usually in the bays, in the areas of brackish water, not in the ocean. This little 6-year-old girl, she was in one of those bays when she was stung last week. She's had 3 trips to the ER to help with her pain, numerous phone calls to doctors. Dr. Bologna can't predict how bad this season will be just yet.
Clinging jellies are a small, invasive jellyfish. They're about the size of a quarter from the Pacific Ocean. I was able to pick up about 300 of them in a very small area in about an hour. So they tend to be very abundant in these places that have lots of algae in our coastal bays.
Okay, so here's the good news. Once the water temp reaches 82, they usually die off, and that's usually by mid-July. But in the meantime, of course, people now, I'm probably adding to the panic. People worry they don't want to get stung by these things because it's not like a normal jellyfish sting. Now, he says what you should do if you do get stung before you head to the doctor.
White vinegar helps stop any stinging cells that haven't gone. Then kind of wash with the water that you're in, wipe it clean, and then as hot a compress as you can do it. Heat will help denature or break down those venoms that have been injected.
Now, I should point out that little girl is going to be fine, but she had to endure a lot of pain. 5:57, traffic, transit on the 7th. Here's Joe Nolan.
There are a lot of big jellyfish in the bay, too, we've noticed. Lots. Big ones.
And do they, I don't know, is their sting less so than these little ones? Or maybe it is.
I don't know. But yeah. And, the other thing, too, is a lot of these little beach communities, they have a beach, obviously, on the ocean. But a lot of them have beaches on the bay, too. And that's where a lot of these little kids go with their parents just to flop around in the water, the bay water, instead of going over the ocean. And, so that's scary.
Yeah, I'd probably send a lot of people to the swimming pool today.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?